Hey everyone, I see folks trickling in. We'll get started like 2 minutes after the hour. We'll just let people join, probably hopping from other calls. But in the meantime, feel free to drop your name and where you're joining from in the chat. We'd love to know who's with us. Uh-oh, chat is disabled. Let me see if I can fix that. Does anyone know how to fix that? Hold on. List. Okay. I think it should be enabled now. Perfect. Okay, cool. So everyone drop your name and where you're joining from in the chat. That'd be great. All right, Florida, North Carolina. I'm from North Carolina. A few of us are from North Carolina or have North Carolina ties. So Atlanta, Wisconsin, Oakland, Toronto, DC, Jersey, Michigan, Houston. And we have folks from all over. Tennessee, Pennsylvania, Washington, DC, Austin. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, I know people are still trickling in, but I don't want to delay the conversation much further. So I'll go ahead and kick it off. So hey everyone, welcome to Beyond Black History Month, building power and community for Black employees year round. I am your host, Dumebi Egbuna. I'm one of the co-founders of Chezi, and I'm super excited to have you here with us today. So we do have a group of wonderful panelists, which I will let them introduce themselves in a second. But I did just want to give everyone a quick run of show. So obviously, we're going to do intros. We will get into our panel discussion, but at the end, we will have an audience Q&A. So as we're talking, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and we'll leave about 15 minutes at the end just to kind of hear from you all and see what's top of mind as you look to celebrate Black History Month next month. But without further ado, I will let our panelists kick it off, do their intros. Please tell us your name, the ERG that you lead, your role within that ERG, and even like where you're from, or maybe a fun fact. So Robin, I'll let you kick it off and then we'll go to Jeremy and then Cheryl.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. Thanks to all of you in this virtual room and to those of you who will listen later. And I'm just honored to be here. My name is Robin Haney, and I work at Informatica. It's a software company where I lead Informatica Black Resource Group. I help to lead. We have 7 leaders there. I'm a project manager. And just recently, I'm also slash communications manager too. And just excited about coming together. And I guess I should also tell you what I do for work at Informatica. I am a senior logistics analyst. That's what I actually get paid for. And I live in North Carolina. So that's just a little bit about me. Thank you.
All right, I'll jump in next. So my name is Jeremy Hopewell. I am from New Jersey, so glad to see some New Jersey people in there. And my day-to-day role, I am the lead of the product operations team at Cruise Critic slash TripAdvisor. And among the ERG, I'm a co-lead for Black at TripAdvisor. We are a team of 3 co-leads, small but mighty. Let's see, fun fact, I've got a couple. I think one that my go-to that I always share was I was in the Guinness Book of World Records for participating in the largest scavenger hunt, and my claim to fame was I built a bean sculpture out of Shakira called "My Beans Don't Lie." So that's my fun fact.
That's great.
Uh, Hi, I'm Jarrell Thomas. I am a senior support engineer from Twilio. I'm really excited to be here as well with everybody here. As far as the ERG, I am part of the Black Twilion's ERG as a communications officer. So I kind of send out all the notifications, all the emails, and make sure everything, runs smoothly on the communication side. Um, Fun fact about me. Well, it's kind of hard to top Jeremy's there. I mean, he was in the Guinness Book of World Records. But usually what I tell people is my 15 minutes of fame is I was on a episode of Wipeout. If you've ever seen the show, it's like a
Oh,
fall show. So
yeah.
yeah, try to find me on there. I won't tell you the episode, just look out for me. And I am coming from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, I am glad to have each of you here. So to kick off their conversation, I think our audience would really like to know what your ERG has in store for this Black History Month, knowing that it's coming up in a few days at this point.
Yeah.
Would love to know what your plans are and then how you are going to make it distinct from previous years.
Yeah, I'll jump in and go first. So IBRG, Informatica Black Resource Group, this year, we're going to tell stories. And we've asked our members, our Black members, to tell stories about their families. And each person is going to have about 5 to 6 minutes to talk about their story. And what we've asked them to do, so let me just back up. There are going to be 5 Black members who tell stories about their families. And so we've asked them to be creative, right? To talk about a family member who is maybe the matriarch of the family and give us some details about that. Or maybe a story about migration, how their family maybe moved from the South to up north for jobs. So we're really excited about our story time that we're going to be doing this year for Black History Month.
I love it. I think storytelling is a super powerful way to communicate.
Yeah.
I like that.
Thank-
Jeremy, Jarrell, what about you?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so for our ERG, usually we follow the theme of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. So they usually post out an annual theme, and this annual theme is African Americans and the Arts. And so that's kind of what our theme is going to be around. So it's kind of, we're still planning a few things out, but kind of a few highlights that we have so far is we're doing a call to artists. So we're reaching out to our ERGs and seeing, hey, what kind of art have you been working on? What hidden talents do you guys have? And kind of doing a whole fun thing around that. And then we're doing a virtual art walkthrough. So where we're going to go through a few museums and kind of look at Black history through art. And so, different art through different histories, cultures, and even regions.
Wow, awesome.
Sounds fantastic. I want to come to both of yours too. So for us at TripAdvisor, we kind of hit the ground running as soon as January starts. So we start off Black History Month celebration with a community conversation around MLK Day. So we had ours just recently, and the theme was advocacy and allyship. So whatever we do for our community conversation, that kind of sets the tone and the theme for the rest of our Black History Month programming. So for this year, what we're doing is we have one event on Slack, which is our Black History Month Spotlight. So that brings in people from the overall ERG. So people who are within the affinity, so Black employees and also allies can volunteer people that they want to have spotlighted every day. So we spotlight people either from history, current, it could be food, it could be TV shows, it could be anything. And then we are also doing an event with Work and Chill. So it's a Black History Month trivia. They're a really cool startup. They're skinning the thing to have like TripAdvisor logos everywhere. It's going to be really exciting. And then we have a larger event with Martinique Lewis, who was, she's the president of the Black Travel Alliance. She's worked on the history of Black travel. She has a show on Disney Plus with National Geographic, and she's a big cruiser, so she loves traveling. So we try and have something that is pretty relevant to the business that we can tie in directly, and also do the spotlight like overall Black excellence too.
Awesome.
You all have some great things planned. I'm curious, either Robin or Jeremy, if you look back at your past Black History Month celebrations, are there any events or initiatives that really stand out to you, whether they were super impactful or just super memorable and fun? Is there anything that you go back to?
Yeah,
Derek, do you want to
yeah.
take, go ahead. Go
I'll
ahead.
start off first.
Yeah.
So again, like for us, like my co-leads are fantastic, and we've actually had the opportunity to have really great executive sponsors. So our executive sponsor really utilized his network. So when we have that big speaker, we had two in particular that really stuck out. We had Arnold Donald, who was at the time I think he's still currently or was the only Black CEO of Carnival Corporation. He came in and spoke to us in a fireside chat with our CEO at the time. So that was incredible to be in his presence. I was shaking, guys. I was so nervous. I was like, ah. And then last year we actually had the former CMO of Nike, Greg Hoffman, who talked about his book, Emotion by Design. And it was a great opportunity to actually have the co-leads lead the fireside chat too. So it gave us exposure, and it also gave us the exposure of talking to someone who's so dialed in to the business and has so many great stories that he can tell and share.
Awesome. I love all of that. So this is a really good question. And when I think about it, last year was an amazing year for us around Black History Month. And we currently have 7 leaders. Last year we had 11. And so we came up with our theme, which was Elevate. And we did elevate my life, elevate my wellness, elevate my family, elevate my career. So each week there was a theme. The first week it was elevate my family. And we were so fortunate that our CEO took part in that. And we had a fireside chat. He sat down with 4 of our IBRG leaders, and they talked about their families, which was amazing. And through the dialogue about families, they were able to weave in historical facts about Black history and Black folks and the contributions that Black Americans have made. Y'all, it was phenomenal. It was such a great session. And then the following week, we had my wellness, Elevate My Wellness. There was a nutritionist that came in to talk about wellness in the Black community. As you know, the things that plague the Black community are heart disease and diabetes by far compared to some other groups. And so she focused in on wellness in the Black community. We partnered with a financial institution, and someone came in and talked about finances. We had an executive from Oracle come in to talk about career. It was phenomenal. And the fact that our CEO embraced it the way that he did, the participation was huge. That was like the best time ever that I can, since I've been doing this, and I've been doing this with IBRG for 3 years now, and it was amazing.
I really like to see that both of you mentioned like either people currently in leadership or previously in leadership getting involved in ERG activities, because I think that helps to, one, spread the word, but like promote the visibility of ERGs. So I'm glad to see, your stakeholders are pretty involved. Question for you, Gerald. So I think a lot of times we see for Black History Month, companies, that's when they start to roll out their like, Black people in advertising and like posters of Black people on the walls. And then you move to March and some of that gets kind of swept under the rug. So what steps can companies take to ensure that Black History Month is meaningful, but also that they are continuing to promote racial equity throughout the year?
Yeah, I think, what really kind of helps in this situation is just really communicating with the ERG. And so kind of letting the ERG set the standard for the year. One thing that we really did last year is we came up with an entire theme for our year. So not just Black History Month. So we said, what do we want to do throughout the year? And then, everything kind of fits into that. And so we came up with 3 pillars. We said, we want positivity, purpose, and progression. And everything that we do this year is going to fit inside one of those 3 pillars. And anything that the company does has to fit within those pillars. And so that's what we presented to the company and said, this is what we'll partner with, and this is what we'll do. And then kind of moving forward with that, we said, okay, well, what's it going to look long term? The organizations that we're going to partner with, and we kept it very simple. We said, you know, hey, let's just pick 3 organizations and let's just run with them the whole year long. And so I'm very passionate. I'm a coder, and I kind of got through Twilio through hackathons, and it's a great, you know, tool to kind of introduce, especially minority groups, to coding and technology and things like that. So one of the organizations I partnered with last year was Black Girls Code. And we just ran through it the whole year. And we said, hey, we're here to support you the whole year. You let us know your schedule. You let us know what we're going to do. And, you know, we'll be your champions the whole year. And just fostering that kind of relationship with them to kick it off in Black History Month, say, hey, we're going to celebrate this. This is what we're doing, and have the company kind of promote that and then continue it through the year. Definitely helped. And then, you know, we even partnered with a sickle cell organization. That's definitely a big disease within the Black community, and especially in you know, Africa. And so we partnered with a lot of countries over there and said, hey, we're going to be your champions. We're going to go this and kind of create that awareness. And so, you know, even during like we had, oh, I'm trying to remember the month now. I will get you back the month, but we had Sickle Cell Month. I believe it was in September that we had that. And we had a bunch of ERGs partner with us. And so that was something that we already planned in January, that we're like, hey, we can celebrate this and really expand this in Black History Month. And then we could continue it all the way into September. And then we could even go into December, where, you know, most people start, you know, thinking about donating or volunteering their time and things like that. So just kind of creating that full scope and presenting it to the company, presenting it to the ERG. That way you already have kind of your mindset of, okay, once, you know, March rolls around, this is what our next steps are.
Follow-up question there from like a tactical perspective. Who are, or what teams are you presenting to help drive those initiatives forward throughout the year? Is that like your events team, your comms team? What does that look like?
So yeah, we're presenting it to, so we have a volunteer kind of nonprofit team. It's called our People's Team. So we partnered with them and said, hey, you know, again, to keep it simple, these are our 3 organizations. This is what we want you to partner with. This is who we want you to communicate with. So if you have any discussions about volunteer time or, you know, volunteer, I would like you to discuss it with them first before we move on to anything else. Then we presented it to our DEI leaders, and we said, hey, this is kind of what we're going. This is what we're doing. You know, here's our full outlet. So we kind of gave them a whole, you know, sheet and said, you can read through it, ask us any questions there. And then they went up to higher ups, you know, the executives, the CEO, and they said, hey, this is what the ERG is doing. They've already got it locked down. So, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip for any ERG leaders on the call, is like kind of multi-threading with the different stakeholders in your organization, just to make sure all the initiatives that you're planning get seen throughout the year. So I love that y'all have done that at Twilio. Jeremy, whenever you were talking about like what your ERG did last year, you mentioned there was allyship, something around allyship. So I'm curious, how does your company incorporate intersectionality into your Black History Month celebration, recognizing that there's diversity outside of the Black community, but also within it?
Yeah, so I think that's probably one of the most important things to always think about, is like, as Black employees and Black people, we're not a monolith. So I think some of the ways that we're able to tackle that, some of the smaller ways, is through the Black History Month spotlights. We make sure that we spotlight a variety of different individuals, causes, just really putting more effort and emphasis into the fact that there's so much diversity within the Black community too. So as we said, it's not a monolith. And then I think going forward throughout the year, we always look for different times to partner with other ERGs, and we're always bringing up conversations and discussions about sharing our culture, sharing what's important to us. Like, we always try to understand that there's more than just being Black. Like, you could also be Black and a part of the LGBTQIA plus community. You could also be Black and also an immigrant as well. So it's like, having that focus is extremely important to us too. And one of the things that we have talked about as well as like bringing that forward is we wanted to do an event where we talk about what it's like to travel as. So it's like, what's it like for you traveling as a Black mother? What's it like for you traveling as a Black family? What's it like for you traveling as a gay Black woman? So it's always top of mind to try and think about and talk about how we're not monolithic. Like there is intersectionality all throughout the community.
Something that I'm noticing with TripAdvisor specifically is that you all seem to really align like your ERG activities to your corporate goals or organizational goals. Obviously, you all are travel companies, so you're doing a lot as like ERG events that have to do with travel or have to do with cruising or have to do with whatever it may be. So I like that you're bridging that gap there. Continuing on something that you just said in terms of partnering with other ERGs. How can ERGs that aren't specifically for Black employees contribute to and collaborate with the planning of Black History Month events within the company? And that can be Gerald, Robin, Jeremy, anyone?
Oh yeah, I can answer that or speak to that. For us at Informatica, we have 7 ERGs, and we do a really good job of meeting each month. We have like this group session where all the ERG leaders get together and we talk, and we look at the calendar and see what's coming up. And we also talk about how we can support each other. I think that that's really important. Last year, in the end of last year, we did something with IPA, which is Informatica Pride Alliance, and we did a book. And it was amazing. And the name of the book slips my mind right now. I think it's called Not All Boys Are Blue. And it was an amazing book, and we had a really good time, and the support was huge because all of the different at Informatica, we call them EIGs, employee inclusion groups, all of the EIGs at Informatica or ERGs, they promoted it, this session, within their employee resource groups. And they sent out emails to their members and they plugged it into their team groups. And also too, we have a SharePoint group, SharePoint page, and we post things there. I personally have like an internal little podcast. It's called A Seat at the Table, where I invite folks from different parts of our organization to come and sit down and talk to me, because I love to hear stories. I love for people to talk about who they are, what they enjoy, because what you find is that you have more things in common than you think. And so I think it's very important for the different ERGs to get together and find out how they can support each other. And then another tip with that too, what we found out, IBRG, Informatica Black Resource Group, is that when you tap into your other groups, your other allies, right, you don't have to expand all of your resources. Because remember, we are volunteering, and we also have our other jobs that we get paid for. I don't know about you guys, but I put a lot of hours into my regular job that I get paid for. So when I can rely on the other employee resource groups and they can rely on me, it spreads the wealth across the organization and it makes it fun.
I think that's a really good point. I think, again, another tip for our audience, like if you can have the other ERGs kind of spread the word of what you're doing, it increases the visibility for everyone. So I love that, Robin. Gerald or Jeremy, anything to add to that point?
Well, I just want to say, first off, I have a new podcast now I can subscribe to. So I'll be going off that. But I think kind of to go off of Jeremy's point, we are monolithic. And so we do have a lot of intersectionality. And so kind of playing to that as well within the ERGs. And so I know a big one for us that we noticed with other ERGs is that career development was a big highlight for a lot of employees. And so kind of working with them on that and saying, oh, well, we want to do some career developments. Here's what we're thinking. What are you guys thinking? And really partnering with each other on that and to kind of, help each other work in the same areas that we have interest in. And so, if we have mental health, we kind of work in those same interest areas and really, be champions for each other's ERGs within spaces where we intersect.
Yeah, it's pretty much just jumping on those 2 points as well. I think what's always important too for us at Black Hat is like we kind of understand that every ERG is at a different point in terms of maturity, in terms of their leadership. So we're always trying to share back best practices, like what works best, what we've learned from this event, what we learned from that event. And just as much as we hope people show up to our events, we always try and make an effort to show up to their big events as well. And we try and amplify what events that they have going on as well. And I think what's always really important is that one thing that that TripAdvisor does is we kind of pick our big moments or our big months. So it's, for example, like the Black Hat ERG has Black History Month, and then we also do Juneteenth, and Juneteenth aligns with Pride Month. So that's an opportunity to collaborate again with like intersectionality. So it's kind of always being there, always showing up, always thinking of different ways to collaborate, sharing best practices, making sure we show up and support for each other. Because as Robin said, like we may or may not be getting paid for this, and we also have another job as well to juggle. So it's always good to be able to think about ways to work together and kind of connect the dots and make that perfect puzzle.
Yeah. And a lot of times these other ERGs can be seen as your allies, right? So on that note, how are you all actively including allies in your Black History Month celebrations? But also, how do you advocate for in-group only or safe space activities during this time as well?
So I think one thing that we do is when we're thinking about the year, we kind of look at our programs like, what can we do specifically for the Black community? What can we do for all allies? So one thing that we have is we have a standing meeting. I believe it's every 3 weeks. It's called For the Community Half Hour. It was a genius idea from my co-lead, where it's an open half an hour. Black employees only are invited. We sometimes have a topic, sometimes we don't. There's been times where people have just been talking about hair for about 15 minutes, or there's other times where people were talking about what's going on in the news. But it's an opportunity to create that community within each other and also talk about what roles we play within the company and think of other ways that we can partner and work together. And it's been really fruitful to have those different connections and kind of developing like that mentorship within the community. It's probably one of the more rewarding aspects of the job. And then when it comes to having allies be involved, I think one thing is like, there's been more talks of trying to be more inclusive or trying to create more of an inclusive product. So to do that, it takes a village. That's where allies can lean in. And I think sometimes we do call out and say like, this is a safe space for everybody. We want our allies here. We want our allies to keep talking. We want our allies to just keep the conversations going, because we're never going to bring about change unless if everybody's talking and everybody's feels comfortable enough to try and talk and push for that change.
I think that's an important distinction, right? It's like some things we want our allies involved in because as you said, they help support the work, but then other times it's nice to have that closed, almost like safe space, just identifying folks to come together and talk about whatever it is that they need to talk about. Okay, kind of moving back to something that Gerald said earlier in terms of working with other company stakeholders. I'm curious, because I think during this time, a lot of times companies will look to their Black employees generally, or even their Black ERGs to really lead the charge on uplifting their Black employees. So how can companies effectively gather input from their Black employees without making them solely responsible for all of the programming?
I'll jump in on that. What we do at Informatica is we have a committee. And so what the committee does is they're spread out across the company, like the Informatica's communications person sits on that board because she wants to make sure that she amplifies it throughout the company. Our diversity manager and director, they also sit on that board. And some folks from the other employee resource groups, they sit on that board. And so you have diversity right there, right? And so it's not all put on just the Black employees to figure it all out. It's collaborative. And we also get feedback from our CEO who sends it down to his communications person, and she sits on that board. And it is an amazing opportunity to have different voices, right? Because sometimes I'm in one lane because of my experiences. But then when you have someone else come in and they share their experience, it makes it even better. I do believe that together we are better. And then I want to go back to something that Jeremy said, if I could, and it's about those safe spaces. At Informatica, we started late last year, something called First Friday. And in the First Friday channel, and we promote it on Teams, you can come in and we have different topics. And one of the best topics that we've had was on code switching. And it was incredible and it was amazing. And I think safe spaces are important so that you can say some things that you may not necessarily say outside of those small safe spaces, if that makes sense.
That does. I guess, Gerald, going back to the question around, how companies can lean on their Black employees without putting the sole responsibility on them for like Black History Month celebrations. How have you seen that work?
Is that question to me? Oh, go ahead, Jared. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Is that question towards me or?
It was, sorry. It was.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Yeah, I think what companies need to do, kind of is to let them, take the charge in the direction that they want to go. Definitely don't, put everything on them, but saying, hey, like, what are you guys kind of thinking about, for this year? What are you guys kind of thinking about? How can we assist, and kind of more of that question position instead of more of, this is what we need you to do. This is kind of what we need. And at Twilio, it's been really great. The CEO and kind of the higher ups have really taken more of a, like a question of like, how can we help position? And so kind of saying like, where do you need us to show up? And, do you need us to show up with finances? And, do you need us to show up with, spreading the word out? How can we assist? And so really kind of having companies, have that kind of position. And then just kind of letting us do the direction part. And then kind of going back off what Robin said, committees are so great, and just really asking, who wants to help? Because sometimes you don't even know what allies you do have. And so kind of reaching out and saying, hey, we have great committee opportunities here. Would you guys like to be an ally and partner with us? Because some people may, and we did find this out, I think last year, we sent out a survey of just asking like, hey, how would you like to help us? And we sent it out to everybody that was an ally or that was a member of the ERG. And we got a surprising number of allies that are just, they were a little afraid to ask. They're like, we don't know, where we should fit in. We don't know whose toes we're stepping on there. So just really kind of putting those feelers out as well, asking like, who wants to be a partner with us. And so, yeah, I think that's the big one.
Yeah. And I see a note from Desiree in the chat around like funding and resources also help. I think, if a company is looking to authentically celebrate Black people in Black history during February, but also throughout the year, there needs to be some resources and budget behind it too. It can't just be an empty ask, you know what I mean? So, okay. So last couple of questions before we get into the audience Q&A. Jeremy, what role do you think that company leaders play in Black History Month planning? And how can Black ERGs collaborate with leadership to create and sponsor company-wide events? I know you touched on this in terms of having your previous CEO involved. I'm curious what else you've seen.
Yeah, so the previous CEO was involved. We had our executive sponsors who are in the ERG in the leadership positions really utilize their networks to bring in some guest speakers that they knew. So we were able to get those guest speakers. So Arnold Donald, Greg Hoffman, we got them for free via our executive sponsor. So that is having a person in leadership really show up and really support the cause. The other thing that they're able to help with is to amplify, because change comes from, it can't only just come from the bottom up, it has to come from the top down. So really amplifying our events, also even just being present in the events and speaking and engaging has done wonders for bringing about more engagement. The other thing that they can also help out with is when there's big company meetings or big company events, they can kind of give us a heads up and say, we're going to be doing this event that's going to be bringing in X amount of people. How can we partner with your event to have that get as many eyes as humanly possible on it? And just having that ability for them to move meetings around to just free up space for others to join. I think those are the small steps that I think leadership can do that really moves the needle in like a meaningful way.
Yeah, I can't echo that enough in terms of like, if company leaders participate in ERGs and ERG events, you have no idea how much that gives like regular employees like the psychological safety to also participate. So I'd encourage, leaders out there, if you can join, because it'll help boost membership and engagement in ways that you didn't think were possible. Okay, so I want to leave like 15 minutes for audience Q&A. So I'm going to ask one more question. Would love all of you to answer. So a lot of the people on this call are still trying to refine their Black History Month plans and celebrations. Do you have any creative ideas or recommendations for speakers or resources that they can incorporate into those plans? I know, Jeremy, you dropped Work and Chill, I believe it was, but if anyone else has anyone that you've leaned on in the past, I think our audience would love to hear them.
Yeah, so I mentioned last year we did a series around Elevate, and one of it was Elevate My Finances. And what we did was we partnered with the company who administers our 401k, and we didn't have to pay for that. So we got a free speaker, and he was phenomenal. And he came in and he spoke. I really think that it goes back to what Jeremy said, when you have your executive sponsors tap into their resources. That's very helpful. The person who came and spoke to us about wellness, she was my nutritionist, right? And I had that relationship, and she came and she spoke. So last year we had this dynamic event. We had, it was an amazing series, and it only cost us $500. Right. And so you can do things on a small budget if you really get creative about it, and tap into your resources. There's so many amazing people on LinkedIn who want to help, right? So tap into those things. If you are not doing LinkedIn, I say do LinkedIn. There are some audio rooms out there. Get engaged in those audio rooms. There are people across the globe. When you do LinkedIn, you get people across the globe. And before I stop, speaking, because I love to talk, let me just say this to you. People really want to help you. There are more people out there who want to help you than there are people who don't want to see you succeed. You just have to be brave and be courageous and start tapping into your resources. I know you can do it.
Man, that was encouraging to me. I feel empowered now. Yeah, I agree with Robin there. LinkedIn, if you're not on LinkedIn, I've just, kind of sharing things that we've done on LinkedIn. I got reached out by, a lot of people that want to help as well. So yeah, that's the first tip. If you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn and start sharing things. The second tip I would say is, look internally as well, kind of look within your own company. One of the things that we really had successful last year or 2 years ago was we started a thing called Black Twillions Academy. And so it was a career development training course. And we asked executive leaders, we asked managers, like, hey, would you be willing to teach a course? And we got, a resounding number of managers and leaders do courses. And some of the courses were, how to get a promotion in 12 months or under, how to be an effective manager or leader. And anyone could join. And so it was really exciting to see, a manager say, hey, this is exactly what you need to do to get promoted. This is what I need to see on your resume. This is what I need to hear about. And to really have, employees engaged and say, oh, wow, so this is what you guys are looking for, and kind of break down those walls. And so look internally for like creative events like that. And if you guys have a little bit of budget money, we did work with a company called Bold Exchange, where they did do a gift basket. And so they curate little gift boxes, and we sent that to all of our members. So we did a survey and said, hey, just let us know if you're a member, and let us know if you'd like us to send you a gift. And so we did that last year, and it was really nice. And I really want to encourage, because last year, Twilio, definitely went through a rough patch. I'm sure you've seen some stuff in the news. And so we really want to encourage our ERG that, hey, we still notice them, we still see them. And so I definitely, this was my highlight, and I really, encourage you to do this. Is I wrote a letter that was included in all of that and said, we see you, we're here for you. We see your struggles, and they really appreciated that. And just kind of letting, the people within your ERG know too, like, hey, we see you, we see your needs, we are listening to you. And so get creative with that, get creative with the encouragement. A letter goes a long way. People just need to hear some encouragement sometimes. And then the last thing I would say is do something fun. I know that sometimes we get a little heady and do career stuff and do like goals and missions, but do something fun. So, once a month we do chill work sessions. So we just play on some R&B, some rap, some whatever music. People actually bring some really cool stuff. This is the first year that I've heard some really nice Afro beats. If you haven't gotten to Afro beats yet, I encourage you to. It's really positive. It's really fun music. But yeah, we'll blast some music, and we'll just have some chill conversations. But yeah, get creative, with your fun events as well.
I love that. And I think a lot of companies, particularly in the tech sector, are going through, layoffs and different things. So budget is tight. I think something that you said that is super top of mind for me is just leading internally. You never know who in leadership is willing to help out, or which managers are willing to help out. So I'd look within if your ERG is kind of in a place where you don't necessarily have budget for external speakers. And then Jeremy, I'll close with you.
Yeah, I feel like Robin and Jarrell really hit on a lot of things that I was going to talk about too. And after Robin's rousing speech, I feel like I can go do anything. I'm just going to run a half marathon right after this call. But really, it's just, as I said, like looking within, really thinking about too, like, what is your company's culture like? Like, what are things that tend to resonate with the company more versus other things that you've experienced too that have been like, this isn't really for me. It's like there's an opportunity there to kind of shift the culture or shift interest to things that you might want to see. And especially the fun part resonates as well. So one of the things that we do in the summer, we have the cookout playlist. So everybody knows about the cookout in the summer. You go, you have a barbecue. So this is a cookout playlist. So every single day of the business day is a different letter of the alphabet, and you share a song from a Black artist whose name, or the name of the song has to begin with that letter. So we've seen so much engagement out of that. I think the last one that we did was, the playlist was about 79 hours long. Yeah, so that was just something that came out of the blue. It was fun. It was easy. No budget was necessary. People were jamming like every day. It was something that people were excited to see every single day. And as Jarrell was talking about with Afro beats, like you're secretly learning about all different types of musics. Again, you're learning that Black music is not a monolith. And again, you're learning what impact has been had with music as well.
I love that. And I think people are constantly looking for ways to continuously engage their ERG members. I think that's a really, really great way. Well, thank you all for your participation in this discussion. I'm seeing a lot of questions in the Q&A and also in the chat. So let's try and go through these, and we'll get through as many as we can before the top of the hour. So first one I'm seeing is in the chat. It says the majority of our company's Black community ERG leaders were let go upon returning in the new year. I am an ERG leader from a different group, but I am looking to help. Any tips? I'll let y'all.
Yeah, yeah. Some of that happened where I work too, because we used to have 13 leaders within the ERG, and now we're down to 7. And so, which is still pretty big, but other ERGs got hit too. So I would say just reach out and ask, do you need any help? Especially for IPA, I think there's only one person now leading that group, and I love him dearly, and he's not giving up. And so we often reach out to see how we can collaborate with him and help out. Just be a friend. Sometimes the other ERG leaders just need you to listen to their ideas. And then again, just ask how you can help.
Echo 100% what Robin said. It's just like having that empathy and like I said, just reaching out, just being there as a coworker, as a friend, just taking time to listen and letting people process their ideas, but also sit in those feelings of emotions where, you know, it is almost like you're mourning the loss of your coworkers. So it's really just important to be there, to be that ear, to be that person that's helping. Because you never know like how that'll help someone's day, and just kind of creating again that psychological safety and that safe space to have someone to lean on to as well.
Okay, another question I'm seeing in the chat, and Jeremy just kind of alluded to this, but can you give tips and suggestions on how to increase engagement with an ERG and how to maintain membership throughout the year? I think the playlist was a great idea, but anything else that you all have seen to consistently have engagement and building membership throughout your year?
Yeah, I can go again. I think one thing is whenever we do programming, we always try and think of what is the interactive piece in there too. And also like every single event that we do, we make sure to talk about, hey, come to our channel, come join the event, come join the celebration, come join the family, come join the community. So having those call to actions too, and saying like, we need anybody who's got X, Y, and Z skill. If you don't have that skill, just come and join. Like, we want everybody there. We want it to be a community. So we almost have that intentionality of trying to drive engagement, and we have those moments throughout the year where we know that we're able to get said engagement. I think the hardest thing too, if you have a platform like Slack, don't fall into the trap of seeing emojis as engagement or seeing people commenting as engagement, because a lot of times people see what you're saying, they hear it, they feel it. It's like, also think of ways to like talk to your community more too, to really know that like engagement could be happening. It just might not be happening where you're seeing it in that channel too. And also just don't lose heart. Yeah,
I agree with you. Don't lose heart. And we use Teams. And so we post different things in there. Right now, we are posting financial things, like we posted 10 financial books. We also found a budget Excel spreadsheet, which is amazing. And I think it's offering people value. And it's like Jeremy said, sometimes they don't say anything in that channel, but when you have a one-on-one talk with them, like 6 months down the line, it's like, girl, thank you for that. I needed that on that day, right? That's the impact. That's the good stuff.
Yeah. I think also too, kind of you are the ERG leader, and so kind of being that role model and setting the tone. So, whether in the Slack channel or, kind of in the different events that you have, kind of being the one that's engaging too, especially the most. You should be, whether it's a trivia time, you should be, full in that game, or, if it's a discussion, you should at least be, contributing to the discussion, and even in the Slack channel, engaging. And so, usually what we do is we'll have a safe space and our chill sessions, and we'll have one leader at least attend those meetings. That way, someone's always there kind of, within the discussion and kind of being engaged with the ERG as well. And then listen to your ERG. Sometimes we see people post in our Slack channels, like different things like, hey, did you see this in the news? Or, some people start talking about that stuff. And really try to incorporate that into, your strategy for the year, and like events and things like that. Like, hey, I noticed a lot of you guys are talking about this. Let's talk about it, So I would say that, yeah, be the champions, be the leaders, and, be the one that's the most engaged.
And consistency, right? Do you guys
Yeah.
agree with that? Yeah.
Yeah, always. Yeah. Be as consistent as possible.
Yeah. I think always giving your members to have something to look forward to really helps drive engagement. Okay, trying to get through the questions in the Q&A. Question here, how do you get your company to support having a Black ERG and also support Black History Month? I don't know if any of you were involved in the formation of your ERG, but curious if you have any tips there.
Yeah, I'll start. I was involved in the formation. We're 3 years in now, and I can just say Informatica was very supportive, and they wanted to do this. And, if you're in a place where your company doesn't seem to be supportive, what I would say is get your allies together, talk to some executives who are supportive, right? Not everyone at Informatica is supportive about it, because you're going to have that. But find your champions, find your allies, find the people who want to be in the room with you having these conversations. Those are the people that you gravitate around. Now, my voice doesn't get to our CEO, Amit, right? But I can talk to our director, Kristen, who speaks directly to him. And, I just want to share this. I actually, a couple of years ago, sent Amit an email, our CEO, and it was just a thank you note. Gerald said early on, a little personal note goes a long way. So I think humility goes a long way. And he just recently said his commitment to DEI, and he's not running away from it. So don't you run away from it either. You guys know how you've heard your grandmama say this. She says the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? That's true. You got to use your voice. So find your support. And I know it's hard sometimes, but just build up your courage and just keep going.
And we have a couple of resources, Janice, in terms of how to form an ERG. I'm happy to send you as a follow-up some templates and some worksheets to help you maybe get your ideas in order. Okay, next question. Let's go with, okay, my ERG is only 2 years old, and over the last 2 years, our ERG events at a larger scale have been very surface level. What advice do you have on taking the next step as a Black ERG to create meaningful conversations that have action?
I honestly think the first step is actually realizing that that the events are surface level. And also too, don't sell yourself short, because 2 years is not a long time. So it takes time to mature your ERG as well. So you're kind of in that phase of, in product, what we call is like discovery, is like you're discovering what's working, what's not working. So having that note, like being able to call out that, yes, these are very surface level. I think that is the #1 first step that you can do. Some other things that have worked successfully for our ERG is being a bit more intentional for what are your goals. So think of like, what are your goals? What are your pillars for your ERG? And just kind of staying within those pillars with every single piece of programming that you do. And there's ways that you can drive the conversation strategically without people even noticing. So one example is having something like a community conversation, and we pick a theme to it. And as we're hearing people talk about it, us as the ERG leads can kind of drive the conversation a bit more and saying, oh, that's really interesting. This ties into X, Y, and Z at the business. Or when there's other things too, like one of the greatest events that I was able to go to last year was Afrotech. So just going to that event, like there's so many different people that you can connect with. There's so many different panels. So as I'm attending those panels with my coworkers, like we're getting ideas like, oh, this can tie to TripAdvisor this way, this can tie to TripAdvisor that way. So as the ERG lead, you can create whatever type of programming you want. And if you're noticing that it's still saying surface level, you can kind of change that with what programming you offer, what programming or what's talked about within said programming. So I think give yourself credit because it's only 2 years. Like it takes time to establish the ERG. So yeah, that's all I've got for that one.
Yeah, I think you nailed it in terms of also looking for member feedback. Right now you might be doing a lot of programming that you think would be helpful, but it doesn't hurt to poll your members and see like what they're looking for as a member of this ERG. One, that helps to boost engagement because it's always going to resonate with them. But two, I'm sure they have some ideas in terms of things that can go a little deeper. They might have benefit or suggestions for like greater benefits for you or policy changes that they want to see within the organization. You just kind of have to ask and see what's top of mind for them. Okay, we have 5 more minutes, so let's see if we can do a couple more. Question I'm seeing, so our ERG includes all persons of color, Black, Hispanic, Asian, etc., and allies. What recommendations or advice do you have for being fair in this group? The conversations tend to lean more heavily towards the Black community, and we want to make sure all persons of color in the group feel represented.
Yeah, that's a great question. I love that question. I think the way to do that is one, surveys. Surveys are always good. I love surveys to see what people want to talk about, what people want to do, how they want to engage. And you as the ERG leader, you have to design your programming. And I do believe that starting early off in the year, like getting your program together, mapping out all of your events, you can put events in there that may cater to your Hispanic members or to Black members or to your white members. So the programming belongs to you. You have to be intentional about it. Sometimes when you see that the conversation is going heavily Black, you have to pull it back in. You know, you have to be the Oprah. You know how Oprah is, right? She's like the best conversationist. She'll bring it all in there. So you have to be diverse yourself. You got to study up on it too. So if you're only driving in one lane because that's where you feel comfortable, get uncomfortable. Figure out some other things and how to get other folks involved. But I really think a survey would definitely help out.
And I also don't know if it's mandated that you all stay together, but if it is an option to break those out into individual ERGs, I'd also consider that.
Yeah.
Just so everyone kind of has the space that they need to like drive that conversation too. Okay, last question. Let's see. Okay, has anyone else had the conversation over using ally versus member? Do we alienate people, lessening them to being allies, especially when membership is open? So I guess how do you distinguish between allies versus members, or is everyone considered a member, but within that you have distinctions?
No, go to that. So we did a survey last year, kind of with that, and we laid out the definition of both ally and member. And so, you know, we said a member is someone who identifies with the ERG. So in this case, Black Twillions, if you identify as Black, you are a member. And if you don't, then you are an ally. So far, we have not had, you know, any, I would say like any bad conversation around like, you know, what is Black, you know, who is Black. But when we do come to that, I think it's just more of a case by case, like, hey, I identify as Black, and you know, there may be some certain criteria that you have to meet, to truly identify as Black. And that's kind of where our discussion of the ERG goes. But I think the isolation would come from, excluding the allies completely. If you include your allies and kind of bring them in, which we've done, we've created spaces just for members, and then we've created spaces kind of parallel to how Jeremy's done it over at TripAdvisor. We have a safe space that's just members only, and then we have our chill space where everyone could come in. As long as you don't isolate them, it seems that the allies are pretty okay with where they stand. And, just kind of being honest about it, like, hey, the reason that we have this separation is so we could create a safe space, because some members who do identify as being Black, they may feel very uncomfortable or even, very much in danger talking about certain issues in front of non-Black people, because they may be seen in a certain light, they may be viewed in a certain way, and especially if they work together professionally in teams outside the ERG, with that person, it may affect their professional work. And so we've laid that out, that it's just, purely for, the safety of our ERG members, and just to create a space where they can come. And that's kind of the whole point of it. But yeah, so that's, we haven't seen any issues so far with the distinction.
Yeah, I think that's a best practice too, is having a space for identifying members and a space for everyone. But we are at the top of the hour, so I would like to say thank you to our amazing panelists, Robin, Jeremy, Gerald. You all have been amazing. And thank you to our audience for such an engaging discussion, for all the questions that you dropped in the chat. As a follow-up, the recording to this will be sent out tomorrow. And if you have any questions, I'm sure our panelists would be willing to connect on LinkedIn. I'm also willing to connect on LinkedIn, so please reach out. Everyone have a great rest of your Thursday. I appreciate it.
Okay, bye guys, take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.